Yo, what is up, guys? Still an aka Christian Deputy, and today I have my week 1 power rankings for the first group of 16 of the Altered Creation Draft League. So, I do want to just go ahead and say that I don't want to go into the matches too specifically, as I have the weekly recap for that. So, with that out of the way, let me go ahead and get started with my 16th place, who is the Empire of the Hand. So, they took a 3-0 loss for their first week, and I'm going to mainly attribute that to sacking their Empoleon extremely early when it checked like half of the team, half of his opponent's team. And then he was also avoiding, I guess, for some reason, going Sableye, but I can understand since his opponent didn't have a Tapu Lele and they could just bring that in against the Prankster Sableye to basically make it useless and just give it a free turn. But even then, it could spam things like knock off, or even just come in, take the hit, click recover, and then get out. I'm pretty sure the Thundurus was scarfed to try and catch Swampert off guard in rain. But right, I don't think the scarf was a bad bring at all. Just the way he played it as well was a little interesting. Again, instead of going Sableye against the Urshifu, he goes Thundurus so it could take 90% of its health, and then does make a quote-unquote read to click a Grass Knot instead of Thunderbolt versus the Urshifu, but it does cover both the Water Urshifu and the Swampert on the switch in, so I wouldn't really call that a read. It's more of a safe play. So yeah, they don't take as big a loss as they should have, but just letting the Empoleon go down that early really just hindered their game for the rest of the game, obviously. And I feel if they just keep their things alive when they're supposed to, they could do a lot better. So for the first week, I will have them at the last place. At 15th, I have the Kansas City Chicas. So, they were the team that took a 6-0 loss. I feel, they also played pretty poorly against the Celesteela. And then they were just a little unlucky, so I don't really want to say, 6-0, that means you're in last place now, right? So, because, the game could have gone a different way had, they not gotten unlucky like that. But I definitely do disagree with staying in against a Celesteela with a Swampert just to Rock Slide it when it already revealed that it had Giga Drain. And that Giga Drain was what allowed it to get the first special defense boost, which then made it a huge problem for them. Again, Fire Blast missing would have done around 60% damage, especially with a nasty plot up from the Hydreigon, and then something like the Salazzle or Galvantula could have revenged it. But yeah, I just feel, aside from that luck, they didn't really deal with the Celesteela too well. So I am going to go ahead and give them the 15th place spot. At 14th, I have the Saffron Sableyes. So they bring a Specs Rotom, which was actually really cool for this game, but I feel aside from this, everything wasn't really optimized. They had Swords Dance Mega Scizor with Acrobatics instead of Dual Wing Beat. That obviously would have done a lot more damage since it just proc the Technician twice. And that's what allowed something like the Tangrowth to live against it, click Leech Seed, and then Avalag was also able to live against the Mega Scizor and knock it out with the combination of Leech Seed, Rocky Helmet, and the Body Press coming for it. And then Colossal having a physical fire attack instead of special to deal with the Avalag was also a little weird, especially since the Avalanche shouldn't be beating you 1v1, right? You're a fire type, and the rock type against an ice type. So I think if it had like flamethrower instead of heat crash, it definitely would have done a lot more damage to it. And it was also taking Rocky Helmet from that Avalug. And then just a few other like weird plays where he keeps like Darmanitan in against Vaporeon when it's not in range. And then this was them. They went and sacked like everything to the Scarf Magnezone instead of just going Venusaur and tanking the electric hits and forcing it to get out. So I don't know, they waited till everything was low. Like the Rotom took an unnecessary Thunderbolt, which allowed it to be revenge killed easily by something in the back later. So I think they definitely need to like polish up their play. But aside from that, well, not only their play, but like their team building, and make sure they can catch things like, oh yeah, I need a special attack so my check to Avalug can beat Avalug, right? So if they get approved of that, they could like definitely do a lot better. So for now, they'll be at my 14th place. At 13th, I have the Twin Leaf Town Tauros. They did take a 5-0 loss, but I mean, I think this was mostly due to them letting their Clefable take a Earthquake from Garchomp, like a Life Orb Garchomp, instead of scouting for its item, its spread with like a physically defensive Mandibuzz that they had, and even like Ferrothorn, but of course Ferrothorn has to make sure it doesn't take a Fire Blast from it. So after the Clef took that damage, like Abomasnow just kind of ran over him, right? It was at like 26% or something, so it died to the combination of an HP Fire that was going towards Ferrothorn, and then an Ice Shard, priority making sure it couldn't heal back up against it. And then their Mega Garchomp couldn't really do a lot, right? Because the Abomasnow and Gigalith were just trading weathers with each other. So I definitely think if the Clefable was kept healthy, right, like, or at least turn 1 not risk that, because that was turn 1 where they just let it take a Life Orb Earthquake instead of going into something like Mandibuzz to take on the Garchomp. So that just made their rest of the game really difficult. So for now, they're at my 13th place. Yeah, so at 12th, I have the Fujiya City Fletchenders. I mean, they took advantage of their opponent never going into their Clear Smog Gastrodon against the Slowbro. It was able to knock out Latios and Heatran with an Ice Punch and an Earthquake after a Curse, respectively, due to its ability, and then it was also able to knock out Superior later in the game. I think, their opponent just gave you like 2 knockouts for free, basically, and you weren't able to capitalize on that. And then the Phoenix set looked like it was scarfed, but I think something to deal with the combination of like Gastrodon and Gliscor together, like Taunt, Nature's Madness, Moonblast, and Scald, would have just beat that defensive core and then make the rest of your team really strong. And so something like Dragapult will be able to break through Gastrodon, right? And then because they let their Kartana get burnt at one point in the game, and then it goes down to like Gliscor or something, so they weren't able to break through that Gastrodon with the tools that they had. So I think and then they had Gastrodon taken out by a crit Phantom Force, right? So I mean, they got lucky to where the Gastrodon just didn't like just 1v6 or 1v3, 1v4, whatever the rest of the team, because at that point they just could not break through it. So yeah, I really feel that they have to capitalize on like turns like that where you get your opponent just gives you knockouts for free, and you just don't take advantage of that, right? Like, this easily could have been a win with like better play, better sets. So for now, they'll be at my 12th, and then I put their opponents, the Falcon Punch, at 11th. So for this week, they're the only team that won that is below top 8. Obviously, a win doesn't mean that you outplayed, outprepped, or even like made the best plays to secure your victory, and you could see it clearly in this game, right? Like, he sacks the Latios and Heatran, as I mentioned, to the Galarian Slowbro instead of just going into their, what was later revealed, Clear Smog Gastrodon that just completely checked it. And of course, right, he maybe didn't expect for the ability to proc that many times or like activate, but you still have to take the possibility into account. You can't really just say, oh, okay, well, it's not gonna happen this turn, I'm gonna do this and hope it doesn't happen, right? Like, no, you had a safe play. You had a safe play and you just didn't make that play, right? It really didn't lose you anything to just go Gastrodon and then clear Smog and then go back out into something, because Latios and Heatran were, what's the word? Oh, very, very threatening to his opponent, and he just let them go for free pretty much. So they also get lucky that they potentially got a low roll off of a Moonblast from their opponent on the last turn, right? And I mean, again, like I mentioned previously, his opponent wasn't able to capitalize on taking 2 knockouts for free, pretty much. So I did go ahead and put them at my 11th spot. At 10th, I have the Wartortles. I don't really have a lot to say because I just think their matchup was really terrible, right? Like, they take a 3-0 loss, which, you know, respectable, because with a bad matchup, you really should just be getting like 6-0, right? His opponent had a Mega Altaria, Celebi, and a Cryogonal against Rain, like, or Kingdra Rain to be exact. Like, Kingdra has to like get a lot of predictions. It's very prediction reliant against those 3. It's like, okay, I can click Water Attack and then Celebi will eat it up, or Mega Altaria will eat it up. I can click Ice Attack, but then Cryogonal can come in and eat that up, and it's like, okay, I could click Dragon Attack, but he has Mega Altaria, so. And then I think a strange thing was not bringing Gardevoir, because, I mean, Gardevoir just breaks through teams by itself, and I mean, I understand not wanting to bring it as well, because he was like heavily pressured by things like Landorus Incarnate, Zeraora, Doublade, right? Like, his opponent had a lot of things to deal with it. But, I mean, at the same time, you also have checks to those. And then, as we mentioned in the power rankings, like, not having a real electric assist, right? Because, I mean, Eldegoss is okay at best, but his opponent does bring 2 electric types to this game, you know, seeing that they're very weak to it. And again, I just think the most important factor was that it was a like terrible matchup for them. So for this week, I have them at my 10th. At 9th, I have the Jacksonville County Jolteons. So this was one of the quicker games. I think it was only like 17 turns, and I saw that they played and prepped really poorly against Urshifu. Like, at one point, you see that the Urshifu outspeeds Jolteon, meaning either, right, it's scarfed, or that your Jolteon is just like negative speed with 0 IVs for whatever reason. So, assuming they know Urshifu is scarfed at that point, they should have gone into like a Tapu Bulu or Megalopony, who can resist the scarfed Wicked Blow, but instead they go into Bronzong and they just sack it, like, for no reason. They just go into Bronzong and it dies, right? Like Bronzong would have been really useful against like Druddigon, Nidoqueen, and even like Mega Pinsir, right? And he just like lets it die. Game was definitely winnable. I mean, they did make a nice predict where Tapu Bulu clicks Rock Slide, but the Moltres lives on like 1 health. Right, yeah, the Moltres like lives on 1 health, so it doesn't get to be knocked out by the Bulu, and then it gets knocked out by a flamethrower, and then just Mega Lopunny comes in to like revenge kill it. At that point, the Urshifu just comes back in and knocks it out with a close combat. So, I mean, very strange to just let your Bronzong go down like that when you have 2 answers to what your opponent is doing. But yeah, 3-0 loss. Possibly could have been a lot closer had they played better, so I'm going to have them at 9th place. At 8th, I have the Toronto Razor Leafs. I mean, they played the full Trick Room team, and I mean, they played around it very well, right? Like, I think at one point, the Volcanion, who is revealed to be Specs by the damage and everything, gets a miss on the Fire Blast, which I'm not going to fully say that what changed the game around completely, because it could have been a roll, right? It could have been a roll, and he missed, right? So we just can't find out at that point. But if it wasn't a roll and he was able to knock it out, then I think they just won the game from there. But even then, they had like Slowbro to come in and click Trick Room anyway, and then go into something like Marowak like they did, his opponent did, and just knock out like 3 of his things, right? Marowak just beats Rillaboom, Volcanion, and Mega Heracross. So under Trick Room, I don't think it would have been a problem for them if the Porygon 2 was knocked out by the Volcanion. But I mean, I'm not sure also if the Skarmory was like Whirlwind or Taunt or something, because that turn 1 U-turn where their opponent hard switches into Colossal should have been a switch into Skarmory if you did have that. But I mean, if they didn't have it, then whatever, right? Like, I guess they made the right play. But yeah, I think definitely, I don't think they made any bad plays, right? Aside from like that, like turn 1, but again, I don't know the Skarmory set, so I can't really say it was a bad play or not. So yeah, for that, I have them at 8th place. At 7th, I have the LA Venusaurs. So the Venusaurs ended up being the only winner of the Judgment Conference for the first week. Their opponent just lets them get rid of the Empoleon early, which means his 2 fairy types, the Tapu Lele and Galarian Weezing, were just safer to use. They also had a Scarf Urshifu who was able to surprise the Alakazam, who had set up an Astaplat and could have really been a big threat against the rest of his team, especially if he wasn't able to get Rain Up, right? At the end, they play Lele very well. They just like go into it. They have no Steel type and just clicks Moonblast twice and gets a few knockouts. I didn't really want to put them higher than any of the other winners, even though they did have a 3-0 victory compared to other teams, because I mean their opponent just for some reason forgot they had a Sableye or something and never went into it against physical attackers to like soak hits and then click recover. And then for them letting go of their Empoleon like way too early in the game. I feel had their opponent kept those in mind, definitely could have been maybe a win, but easily a closer loss for them. But yeah, so at 3-0 for their week 1, I did have them at 7th place. So at 6th, I have the Galarian Gallades. So really, it's the same thought for them as the Venusaurs. Like, their opponent had a lot of questionable choices, like how I mentioned, the Acrobatics, Mega Scizor, Physical Attack, Fire Attack on Colossal instead of Special. And then their Wish Turn Vaporeon, right? They had a Wish Flip Turn was really cool because they could get the wish and then get that slow U-turn, right? Slow quote-unquote U-turn, but it's foot turn into something and just heal it all the way back up. And then Avalug was able to check Mega Scizor and Colossal by itself when it's supposed to be losing to those, right? But I think had his opponent thought of what he was bringing, right? Where it's like, okay, well, Acrobatics is only going to be base 55. Okay, sure, cool. So it's going to get powered up by my Technician. But so is Dual Wing Beat. Dual Wing Beat does have that chance to miss, but it is way stronger than the Acrobatics. And then, like I mentioned before, their opponent just kind of like throw everything at the Magnezone instead of just going into Venusaur to force it out from clicking Thunderbolt on everything. But yeah, they were able to pick up a solid 2-0 win. So I did go ahead and put them at my 6th place. At 5th, I have the PKS Shadow Ballers. So, I mean, they just played their Trick Room really well. And they dealt with their opponent's threats just as well. Obviously, they saw what his opponent brought, and they just knew that their Marowak was going to be a big threat. And then Teleport on Porygon 2 was really nice, as it was able to click Trick Room, soak a hit, and then get out and bring in again something like that Marowak to keep getting knockouts on everything, because looks like let me see. So they play they played the Razor Leafs. Yeah, so just about everything was weak to the Marowak. Something like the Rillaboom, Volcanion, Heracross, Skarmory, and then like to some extent Araquanid, because it doesn't have the best physical defense, right? So that Teleport was really nice for them. And then really the only thing I would have liked to see is I know you're playing Trick Room, but you can also afford to outspeed things outside of Trick Room, especially with your Komo, since that's like your only decently fast option. You don't want literally everything on your team to get outsped. So if Komo was able to outspeed the Mega Heracross and the Volcanion, it probably would have knocked them out instead of gotten knocked out by them. So yeah, at the end, Mega Slowbro was just able to tank a Pin Missile from Heracross at 2-0, sets up Trick Room, gets knocked out, and Marowak takes the 1-0 victory for them. Very close game, very nice game. So I did go ahead and put them at 5th. At 4th, I had the San Francisco Scizors. So, I mean, they just had a really favorable matchup, as I spoke about with the what was it? The Golden State War Turtles. Right, they had 2 electric types. They had Mega Altaria, Cryogonal, and Celebi against Rain. Like, I mean, I think the matchup is heavily in your favor. And, I mean, being able to see or take a 3-0 victory like that, it's really nice, of course. The only thing I would have loved to see here is you do have a nice check for the Mamoswine already in Cryogonal, right? It resists the ice attack, it's immune to the ground. So instead of Cryogonal having Flash Cannon, I would have loved to see it have Recover, as it would have allowed it to keep coming in against that Politoed, right? So whenever it tries to set up Rain, you just, okay, I'm gonna go Cryogonal, I'm gonna click Recover on you if you try to Scald or something, right? And then I'm gonna click my Freeze Dry, so I'm able to get knockouts or a little bit of damage here and there. And so Cryogonal would have been really nice with Recover over Flash Cannon, as you know, you already beat the Mamoswine by yourself just naturally. So having the Flash Cannon, I think, was just overkill, and Recover would have definitely helped against the rest of the 5 options that his opponent had. So I do have them at 4th. At 3rd, I went ahead and put the Iowa City Quagsire. So they were able to take advantage of their opponent, especially again with that choice scarf Urshifu. Metagross attempts to set up really early with a weakness policy set, right, with agility, but it did get knocked out by Skuntank's Aftermath ability. And then Urshifu was just able to knock out like basically everything. It gets rid of Jolteon, Bronzong, and then a paralyzed Flygon who was paralyzed by Druddigon's Glare. Then yeah, so then again that like Bronzong play where his opponent just lets it go for free, like okay, especially after you find out that it's scarfed, right? Like okay, it outsped the Jolteon. Clearly it's scarfed. You don't go into your dark weak Pokemon when it is locked into a dark attack. Right? You have two different things that can go into it. But I mean, aside from that, really well played by them, right? They go into Moltres, right? Not risking their Urshifu to take on the Vulu, right? It lives at 1% with the Invisible Focus Sash, and then knocks it out with the Flamethrower, and as I mentioned, it goes down to Lopunny, who's then knocked out by Urshifu close combat. So, yeah, really well played, right? They played their game plan well, and they did go ahead and secure a 3-0 victory, so I put them at 3rd place. At 2nd, I went ahead and put myself, although, again, I didn't really want to rank myself, but I did take a 5-0 victory against my opponent. Right, so my turn 1 was just, okay, I'm gonna Quick Earthquake on Clefable because I need that weakened for my Abomasnow, and if he goes Mandibuzz, then I can just beat it one-on-one with Stone Edge and force my Stealth Rock to stay up. But even then, so yeah, that Life Orb Earthquake really just put me in a good position because my game plan was, okay, chip Clefable and Delphox, and then let Abomasnow come in under Trick Room and just beat everything down with its raw stats, and then the chip damage from Hail. Delphox was a Shadow Ball set, and then Tornadus and Arcanine were able to handle that pretty well, and then Slowbro checking both Garchomp and Gigalith was also really nice, as I was always able to just click Trick Room, then get out with Teleport, bring in a Abomasnow, and get another knockout. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot to say. I think I played my game plan really well. Right, like, I played my game plan really well, right, which was to just chip the important things I needed to chip or knock them out, and then go Abomasnow, since Abomasnow did enjoy being in against a lot of his team, especially in the Trick Room, so I went ahead and put myself at 2nd place with my 5-0 victory. And then at 1st place, again, the Cherems, I mean, they took a 6-0 victory against their opponent. They did have a little bit of luck, right? But it was also just, I mean, obviously taking advantage of their opponent, staying in with a Swampert who can't really threaten the Celesteela with Celesteela threatening it with a Giga Drain, right? And then being able to get that first special defense boost just made it really difficult for them to deal with. Of course, right, have to commend them for taking advantage of that, right? It was able to just knock out 5 of the rest of his Pokemon, and then after that, the Excadrill comes in to try and revenge it with like Rock Slides, but he just goes Clef Key on one of the Rock Slides, reflects on an Earthquake, and then goes Seismitoad to tank the Earthquake again, and then it just knocks it out, right? Because at that point it was already really weakened, so Seismitoad could just come in and claim the knockout like that. So, yeah, they do take a 6-0 victory, right? Mostly due to that Celesteela just being a big threat and his opponent not really playing well around it. So, again, as I already mentioned, 1st place goes to the Cherems. Okay, guys, so that is the week 1 power rankings. I do apologize for this being up pretty late, but I will be posting the week 2 power rankings by the end of the week, right? So that I am able to catch you guys up with the stats and everything for the week. So yeah, guys, with that out of the way, thank you very much for watching. If you did like this video, make sure to, of course, click like, leave a comment on any thoughts you had, and make sure to subscribe to my channel, guys. With that out of the way, this has been Christian Deputy.